Hello everyone, and welcome to another Wandering Quill Book Impressions video. I'm your host, Gabriel Garcia, otherwise known as the Wandering Quill and the Wandering Scribe, and today we are doing another double feature here on the channel. And the two books that will be featured in this video are Brian Fitzpatrick's first book in his trilogy, Mechcraft, and the Boston Metaphysical Society by author Madeleine Holly-Rosing, which is a prelude and prequel to the Boston Metaphysical Society comic series. Now, let's start off with Brian Fitzpatrick's Mechcraft series. Now, this is a trilogy, and if you remember when I posted the video of this book, I want to say earlier this year, this book is a very interesting story. So, we find ourselves in a world where now technology has advanced so much that it's almost like, the best way I can describe it, it can be transformed into anything. And that people sometimes put this into their DNA where they can literally bring things out of thin air. Here's where the story gets a little interesting, according to synopsis. 15-year-old Jake London's ideal teen life is thrown into chaos when he discovers the ability to telepathically control a swarm of shape-shifting nanotechnology that has until recently laid dormant in his DNA. With Mechcraft, Jake can summon liquid metal through his pores to create any object he can imagine. But he's not alone. A secret world opens to him, revealing a hidden society of fellow Mechcrafters entrenched in a war between three factions vying for dominance. And those three factions are the Gauntlet, the Hunters, and the Phalanx. Being the first person born with nanotech, Jake becomes caught in the center of the warring faction schemes, each believing his potential power will be the wild card to deliver victory. Now with Mechcraft agents Bex and Trent escorting him, a horde of enemies, the Hunters, are in pursuit, and Jake finds himself in a desperate race to safety. Will the agents be able to get Jake to their headquarters, or will sinister faction leader Sasha, leader of the Hunters, exploit his power? Now, this takes place in Southern California, more specifically Orange County, where Brian Fitzpatrick is from. And the story reads very cinematically, as Brian Fitzpatrick is also a screenwriter, as well as addition to being an author. And this story, Mechcraft, is actually really a good read. You could probably finish it in a day. But it reads so well, and it's actually a good introduction into this world. Now, the overall premise of the story is very, very nice. It really sets the tone that there are these three factions, as I mentioned earlier, the Gauntlet, the Hunters, and the Phalanx, who all have this nanotechnology already ingrained into their DNA through some form of surgical procedure. Jake, on the other hand, was born with this already in his DNA, so that again makes him the wild card. And while the Phalanx believes he has the potential to reshape humanity, Sasha, leader of the Hunters, believes that he has the power to pretty much reshape the power dynamics between those with Mechcraft and nanotechnology in their body and those that do not. According to Sasha, she believes that humanity needs to be saved, but her vision of saving is a little bit more on the destructive and pretty much global genocide. And I love how very real all the characters feel. Jake actually feels like a 15-year-old that you would have known back in middle school. His parents are very, very, aware of his situation. In fact, if I had to compare this to a movie, it very much reminds me of Taylor Lautner's Abduction, where he finds out his parents in that movie are not his parents, but friends of his parents who raised him as their own, and pretty much he's now the last eyewitness to the killing that his father was a part of, and also resulting in the death of his mother. And he goes on this quest to pretty much retrieve a piece of evidence that will save him and bring new evidence to light. That's pretty much the best way I could describe Mechcraft, where Jake pretty much has to get to one place in a very short amount of time before pretty much he's captured. And Bex and Trent's sole purpose in this story is to get him there to safety. Now, Jake pretty much acts like any other 15-year-old. He has no idea what's going on. But over the course of this story, Jake begins to understand how powerful he actually is. He's much more powerful than the villain, at least what we perceive to be the villain. Sasha is the leader of the hunters, but there could be other people in the shadows waiting for their moment to strike. And ultimately, Mechcraft is a nice little science fiction read, and actually I would definitely say this is pretty good for, young adult readers to get into the science fiction world. It's not too complicated, where you have to, go back to like a glossary or anything. It's a nice introduction into the science fiction genre. So I would definitely recommend Mechcraft for young adults, as well as people who want a different style of science fiction. It is a really great book, and I would definitely give this 5 out of 5 again. I know I typically give 5 out of 5s a lot easier, but normally if the book is really good and it reads well and the characters are really good, then it automatically bumps up to a 5 out of 5. So definitely check out this book. And if you want to see my interview with Brian Fitzpatrick, please check out the video right over here for you to watch the full interview. Now, the second book that I read was The Boston Metaphysical Society, a prelude by Madeleine Holly-Rosing. Now, as in what it says on the back, imagine an alternate steampunk history where ghosts and demons are a normal part of life. Families known as the Great Houses control the economy of the great states of America, and a middle class and lower class Irish sole purpose is not only to serve them, but to rid their lives of supernatural beings. Compiled together for the first time are 7 stories based on the popular steampunk comic Boston Metaphysical Society. The collection includes Steampunk Rat and the Demons of Liberty Row, in addition to the previously published short stories A Clockwork Man and The Way Home. All stories are prequels to the comic and contain no spoilers. And that's pretty much what this book is. Now, I have not read the comics, but I want to get a good introduction into the world to understand all these characters. Now, pretty much you have a woman who can see ghosts. You have a former Pinkerton, and I believe this man is a clockwork man, which means he's half mechanical, half organic. I could be wrong in that, but the artwork is, very, very enticing. Yes, there is artwork. And to give you an example, here is, let me just shift that a little bit. Here is an example of the artwork that is found. And what I really, really like about this story, as from even what the author has said, when we think of steampunk, we always tend to think of in Great Britain. But for this book in particular, it takes place in Boston, hence the name. Because we don't ever see steampunk in American fiction, it's always in the UK. And Madeleine wanted to change that. And ultimately, the story is very, very good. It really sheds light into this steampunk United States, or the greater states of America, as it's called, and really shows us, what this world is like. As the synopsis said, you have ghosts, demons that exist, you have people who are half mechanical, and ultimately, it's a nice little take on the genre of steampunk. What I so much enjoyed about it was, this is my first introduction into the steampunk world. I have never read any books or even comic books set in the steampunk era. So the Boston Metaphysical Society is a nice introduction into the steampunk genre, as well as a deviation from the steampunk genre, in the sense it's not solely in Great Britain, or not taking place in Great Britain, but taking place in another part of the world. And the demons, the ghosts, the stories, the characters, they all feel very organic. And the way I see it, it's very much like an anthology series within the prelude. You get an idea into the lives of the main characters, who will be featured more heavily in the comic series of the same name. You see what the world is like for them, how they view their surroundings, what their status is in the world, and ultimately, you get an idea that this is not an easy place to live. Again, you have demons, you have ghosts, you have the politics of the great houses that interfere and mingle with the lives of the lower and middle class. And ultimately, the Boston Metaphysical Society Prelude book is a good introduction into the comic series if you do not know where to begin, or if you feel that you may have missed something. This is a good introduction to the world, as it contains no spoilers of the comics. It's a nice introduction into the genre and to the series by Madeleine Holly-Rosing. So, just like Mechcraft, I would also give this... personally, my score would be a 5 out of 5. But I can definitely see people who are not into the steampunk, maybe it being lower. Like maybe a 4.5 or a 4 out of 5. I can't see anything that's lower than a 4. It does not deserve a 3 or anything because it's well read. You can follow the characters. And it's a nice change of pace, as again, for the steampunk genre. So I will link this and Mechcraft down below in the description of this video. And if you want to check out my interviews with their respective authors, click here to watch my interview with Brian Fitzpatrick, and click over here to watch my interview with Madeleine Holly-Rosing. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below which book was your favorite and which one you're more excited to see featured on this channel from my book haul from LA Comic Con. Well, until then, this has been The Wandering Scribe and The Wandering Quill signing out, wishing you all a wonderful day.